Reminder to our listeners that today's episode of Puck Pursuit is presented by Powerade Ultra, which has 25% more electrolytes than original Powerade. Justin, you obviously spent some time in the Leafs organization as a video coach. So I'm curious, since we don't want to go too hard on the Leafs Bruins series that's in motion right now, let's talk about just big picture with the way the organization operates in the playoffs. Like, is it a noticeable thing when the playoffs come around? Everyone, kind of perks up a little bit, whether it's sports science or, the nutrition people, or just making sure everyone's operating at, 100% efficiency.
Yeah, no, it's that time of season. During the season, you have to live your life as a player. And if that means once in a while you'd like to have a Coca-Cola, or you'd like to have, whatever the beverage of choice may be, or that might be beer. I should maybe just be direct with that. Or an ice cream sandwich. You have it during the season because you have to live your life and enjoy yourself once in a while. However, during the playoffs, they tend to tighten things up a little bit and really buckle down. And fluids obviously are very important. That's sort of a crucial element for players, and getting sleep. It is the time of year where it's just like no more fooling around. And it's almost to the point where if you see your teammate kind of stepping outside of that realm, it's like, hey, you're kind of hurting the whole team by not taking this seriously. Can you eat your sweet potatoes? So that sort of thing. So yeah, it is different than the regular season.
Well, the reason why I thought of this is because there was a picture on that the Leafs put out on Twitter. It was like the on an off day. I think it was between game 1 and 2. And they don't normally put out these type of pictures where it was a bunch of guys stretching with, exercise bands and whatnot. And it made me think, like, how tight are they on their own schedule in the playoffs versus the regular season? Because there's no room for error, right? Like, you can't screw around, for lack of a better phrase. And that sort of piqued my interest. It's like, look at all these guys that are stretching on their day off, that obviously do that in general, but it seemed like they were trying to document, like, it's the playoffs. We really care right now.
Yeah. And that's it. There's only so much you can do, but there's no corners cut this time of year for sure.
What about just the way that the organization, like I don't know, I don't want to characterize the organization, but did you see when you were there that, like, once the playoffs rolled around, like in general, coaching, players, everything, when the playoffs rolled around, it was sort of like, you start really dialing in, because the season's long, right? You can't be dialed in 100% for whatever it is, 6 months. Like, did you see a switch there?
Yeah.
Or a switch flipped?
Yeah, very much so. The coaching perspective is just, during the season, you don't really have time to dig deep on anything. You're looking at the next opponent, and then you play the next night against a different team, and then you're home and you have a day off, and then you practice. And so you're drawing up your practice plan. You're just in this, like, you're kind of a rat, the hamster on the wheel. This time of year, you're really able to settle in and focus versus one opponent. And for some players, that means they know they're going to have to play more physical because they're playing a more physical matchup. For coaches, you're evaluating how your team has to play versus these systems. So it gets much more focused and much more dialed in, I would say, much more granular than during the regular season.